In this session, we are already going to have our categories saved into our database table. So I've already created a file on our previous tutorial, process.category.php, wherein this will be the file that we will be using to interact with our database. Okay, so let me just try to open. Okay, so I've already opened my process.category.php. Next thing that I need to do is I'm going to open my index.php. Okay, so why the need to open my index.php? So basically, I just opened my index.php so that I can copy my code, this particular line of code. Okay, so let me just try to copy here everything first. Okay. I'm also going to open my categories.php. Okay. So I'm going to paste also the code here. Now, I will still have this notice. Fields marked with asterisk are required fields. So let's have this one as, let's try to mark category with asterisk since we will be using this, since this will be a required field. Okay. Next thing that we need to do is we need to get the ID. So we have your category. Okay, I'm just going to copy. Category. Then description. Okay. Let's also just try to change this one into category, then description. Okay. So next thing that we need to do is we'll just have to copy this one. Copy. Then of course we have here category.focus. So basically, if category is null or empty, then the category form will be set on focus. Then we can just try to delete this part. Okay. So we have here also the variables. If here, let's try to call this one as, or maybe we could change this one to text category, then text description. Okay. I actually changed this part. Then let's try to call this one as category, then description. Okay. Then also for this part we have text category, then text description. Okay. Now if status is equals to success, window notification, let's just try to redirect our page on categories.php, or let's just try to redirect, if it's successful, into categories.php. So we can just try to add it here, categories.php. Okay. Then we also need to change this part, from process.login.php to process.category.php. Now, just in case there's a problem, we will also be doing some debugging on our script, so that at least we will also be able to know, or to identify how to debug and how to trace the errors found into our code. Okay, so we have here already process.category.php. We also tried already to set the variable, category, and description. Then we also have already set our redirection. Now this time, let's try to open our file, process.category.php. Okay. Again, let's just try to be lazy. Okay, I'm going to open process.login.php. Okay, so I'm also going to copy this all of this code, then try to just paste it here. Okay. Now, what are some of the things that I need to change? Okay, so this one is actually the connection string, and also added here the connection .php, okay, which is referred to as connect.php. Now, we have your select count if you wanted to. This is actually used if you wanted to check for our SQL statement. Okay. This is actually, I'm going to erase this part. Okay, since this is from our previous discussion. Okay. Okay, I'm also going to open process.login.php, and I'm also going to change this part. Okay. Next, okay, so we already have here process.login.php. Now, we have here, let's try to type our insert statement. Insert into, okay, user. Okay, then we have, what's the field name? Okay, so try to open this part. Going back here to categories. Category and description. Okay. Not actually, this is not user. This is supposed to be categories. Then we have our use, try to get it here. We have here category, comma, description, values, okay, question mark, question mark. Okay, so to close. I can just delete this part. Okay. Now, this will actually serve as our SQL statement. Next thing that we need to do is we need to initialize our parameter. So let's try to call this one as our category and description. Okay. Then we also have it here. Category, then description. Okay, for our post, we call this one as text category. We don't need MD5 since we're not hashing. We're not doing any hashing. Text description. So where did we get $_post text category and $_post text description? So basically this one is taken from, okay, we have here categories. This part. Okay. So instead of text category and text description, we call this one as category category and description. Okay. Let's call this one as category and description. Okay. We'll just check it later if there's going to be an error. Okay. So MySQL bind result, MySQL fetch. So basically we don't need to bind anything. Okay, so we'll just try to put the comment here first and we can just check it later. Okay, we'll just have to execute the statement anyway. So okay, so let's try to go back here onto our page. Okay, as you've noticed, I've already into my admin. Okay, then I'm going to click login. Now categories. Now for our category, okay, since this is our required field, let's try to click first save category. Okay, so there seems to be an error, by the way. Okay, now as what I've said, we will be doing some tracing. So I'm going to right click on my page. Then we have here inspect. Okay, console, debugger, network. Okay, so I have here categories.php. Request, response. Okay, there's no post whatsoever. Okay, let's try to debug this time. So to go back to categories. So you have your process.category.php. Okay. Okay. So where is our first mistake? So basically for this one, we have our text category. So instead of text category, what we basically did was just try to put here category. So let's try to change this into text or txt category. Okay. Let's try to reload the page. Okay, going to click save. Now, as you've noticed, okay, fields marked with asterisk are required fields. Okay, so we're already on the right track. Now, this time, let's try to add some values. Maybe I can put here sardines. Save. Okay. Let's try to go back here. So since basically we are we have been redirected. Okay, so to go to our PHP admin, just like browse. So we have here category. So it didn't actually save. And at the same time, also the ID is 0. Okay, so we'll also be doing some checking this time. Okay, so going back here, category, description. Okay, categories. We have here category. Okay, let's try to change this one first. Let's try to put the comment here first. Okay, and save category. Okay, instead of let's say type again sardines. Save category. Okay, so we have here process.category.php. Okay, so as you can see, it's actually displayed. So how did we get on this part? Okay, so just basically right click on my page, then I have here inspect, then went to network. Okay, so I'm going to double click. I can just click here. Okay, headers, cookies, request. Now, we have here the following variables. So for category, we have here form data sardines and description is empty. Okay, so it means that we are actually trying. It actually means we have been passing data onto our page. So let's just try to check if what else did we ever make a mistake. Uh, Statement check. We don't need to bind result. So we have here the following still, category, sardines, and description. So let's first try to change our database. Let's first try to check our database. So let me just try to open my database. So I'm already here on my browse. Okay, structure. Now for structure, okay, I'm going to change this time. So a while ago, I added the following attributes. Okay, so we have I made sure that my ID, which is my primary key, um, is set to auto increment, just like what I have here. So it's I have here AI or auto increment checked. Okay, then I click save. Then it will actually be set to primary key. You will know that the database has been set to primary key if we have this particular key beside our field name. Okay, now let's go back here. Okay, try to reload the page again. You have here, try to type again sardines, then click save. Okay, so it didn't do anything yet. Okay, let's try to go back to our PHP admin. Let's try to click browse. Now we already have here sardines. Now let's try to modify this time our code. Okay, we don't need this part anymore. Okay, maybe we can put here. Okay, we just have to leave this one as is. Go back here into our categories. Then we can uncomment this part. Okay. Now let's try to add this time for category soft drinks. Or maybe try to put here beverages. Then click save. Okay, so we have been redirected. Go back here again. Let's try to click browse. So we already have it here, beverages. Okay. Now, what if we wanted to display it here, somewhere here? Okay, let's try this time to create our table. Table border, one class. First, okay. So we have here table dot stripe. Table. Okay. I need to add here T head, TH, TD. If your action. Maybe we could have this one TR. Okay, so I need to put this one TR, just to be sure. So we have here action, so I have to put also the width. Maybe no, not width. Style. Now we got put width. 10% maybe, okay. Width. Okay, for this time, for the width, okay, since it's supposed to be 100, I'll put this one as 40%. Width also, now this one, we'll have to set this one as a category. Then last, we have our description. Okay, the head. Okay, then we have here the body, TR, TD, TD. Okay. Now, since basically we don't need to do a prepared statement, what we can basically do is we can just try to type here SQL. Okay, and then we have here select all from, what's the name of categories? Categories. Okay, let me just try to check. Oh yeah, categories. Okay, then next is here, query URY category MySQLi MySQLi query. Okay, but one of the things that we also have to consider is we need to do this one, include. Okay, let's just try to check if it. I don't think. Okay, we'll say to open here first. Admin header. Okay, so there's no the connection string is not included, so we'll try to include our connection string. So we have here include. Okay, if okay, file exists or file not exist, dot slash connect.php. Then we can just try to copy again what's written in admin.header.php, not this part, or parset login. We can just copy this part, or we can just basically copy this part. Okay, categories. Okay, so what's the, okay, so we have here con as our identifier. Okay, categories, con, that's our link identifiers. Okay, so then we have here SQL category. Okay, okay, let's try this time to query while get categories equals to SQLi fetch try to use array. Okay, so let me just try to check first if everything is okay. Okay, severe action, category, description. Go back here again. Try to change this one first to table, class table. Okay, go back here. Try to reload the, okay, we have here already reloaded the page. Okay, then try to add another property, table striped. Check here again. Okay, so this part. Now let's try to add this time our, okay, so let's try to add our category, echo get category. Okay, category, set to check. Okay, so we have your category. Reload the page. Okay, we already have your beverage and sardines. Okay, the next is our description. Okay, going back here again, reload. Okay, description is empty basically. Then of course we have our ahref. Now on this part we'll be adding our edit and delete. Okay, so we just have to, okay, we'll do something like categories.php action is equals to delete and id is equals to echo get category id. You can actually do something like this in PHP. You can just have it at the bottom, okay, so that it will be clearer for you. So you have here something like this, okay. Then this is actually our delete page. And put slash, then action update. Okay, let's try to go back here. Try to click save. Okay, so there's an error already, line 57. So that's actually line 57. So now what's the error? It's not actually an error. Okay, delete. 759. Okay. Let's just try to check first. ID get category. Okay, I'm going to view page source so that it will be clearer. Undefined array key ID. Okay, so why is it that we generated an error although we wrote ID? Let's try to go back here. Now, as you've noticed, our ID column is all in capital letters. And what I basically wrote here is all in small letters. So let's try to add make it capital letters here as well. Now, whatever fields, whatever keys you used in your database column should also be the same set of case. Let's say, for example, uppercase, lowercase, or uppercase, just like what I have here, that you use in your database should also be the same as when you fetch the values from your table. That's why we generated an error. Now this time I already changed it to all uppercase, very much the same as what we have here on our table. Okay, then let's try to reload the page. Now as you've noticed, it's already gone. So the error is already gone. So let's just try to change this one, make it 20, and make this one as 40, just to adjust the width. Because we already have here, okay, maybe we can make this one as 15 and this one as 45. Back here again. Okay, so that's it. So okay, go back here, reload the page. Okay, all you have to do is close also. Same also with this one. Okay. So that's the final set of codes. We ever delete and update. Maybe we can do something also like try to do another part. Okay. So let's try to create a variable called CTR. Okay, we have here CTR is equals to 1. Okay. So basically what this CTR will do is it will actually count the number of rows returned by our database. Or by our query, I mean, sorry, not database, but by our query. So we have here CTR plus plus. Although we can also do something like count, but let's just try not to do that. Okay. So we're T body. Call this one as T foot. T foot. TR. TD. TD. So how many numbers of rows do we have? Or how many numbers of column? So we have around 4 columns. So let's try to set this one as call span is equals to 3. Then maybe we can write something like total number of total categories. Okay. We can do something like while CTR. Okay, it's not yet final, guys, by the way. Okay, try to reload the page. So we have 3. There's only 2, but there's 3 returned. Okay, so why is that? Because we already started here 3. So let's try to set it to 0. Go back here. Then let's try to reload. So 2. Now let's try to add another category. Let's say we already have sardines and beverages. Let's try to add chips. Okay, let's try to save. Okay, so we have already 3. Now, this is all of our categories. So we can now add, and we can also already display. So we'll be doing searching here for the meantime. Now, what we need to do next is we are going to delete. Okay. What we can basically do is we can just try to add it here onto our categories page, delete. Okay. Now, let's try to add it here. If $get, I actually added it on the topmost part. Okay. So we'll be using our query string. So this is our variable and this is our value. So action is equals to delete. Okay. What we can basically do is okay, SQL delete from categories where ID is equals to, okay, so we have here delete from categories where ID is equals to now, but the thing about this particular method is that it's very much prone to SQL injection. So let's not try to do this one. Okay, let's try to go back to our process.category.php again. Okay, so try to add it here. If $get, then call this one action equals to delete. Okay, so we opened our process.category.php and we added this part. Okay, so let's go back here, go back to our categories. We'll also be doing some modification into our categories page. Okay, now for that will happen actually in process.category. So let's try to change this to process.category. Okay, so if your process.category.php, then we have our action delete. Okay, so we'll do the delete first. This is the whole code for you guys to see. So we have your process.category.php. Okay, let's try to go back here into our shopping cart, reload the page, let's try to delete. Okay, so we have undefined array key category, undefined array key description. So it's okay, we can just try to leave it as is. Line 15 and line 16. Okay, this for this one, this is actually line 15 and line 16. Okay, so we can just try to leave it as is, since we're basically concerned ourselves with this one. Okay, so I have to go back. Now, we have here SQL delete. Okay, delete from categories where ID is equals to question mark. Okay, if again, so we'll call this one as delete check equals to MySQLi prepare con SQL delete. Then we'll also be doing binding our parameters. So my SQLi statement bind param. You have your SQL delete. Then so I try to use SS string. Okay, comma, your ID. Try to close. Then last we have second is we have their ID is equals to $get ID. Let's try to check first our categories that code categories code. So it's small letters. So this one should also be in small letters. Okay. Then it's time to execute our statement. MySQLi statement execute. SQL delete. Okay, let's try to check this time our code. Okay, so to go back here, reload the page, decide to delete. Okay, and caught type error. MySQL bind param argument 1 must be MySQL must be type MySQL statement string given C. Okay. Okay. Let's try to change this one to I for integer. Go back here again, reload the page. Bind param. Okay, so I have to check first. Echo $get ID. Figure 3. And cut type error, bind param, argument 1, statement must be of type MySQL statement. Okay, so I have to check our code, MySQL I prepare. So we have connection string, we also have SQL delete, just this one. Then bind param. Okay, so it should be this one. Okay, since we basically need to prepare, so delete check. So it should be delete check, not SQL delete. So delete check, and we have here SID. So this one is actually, let's try to check this code. Okay, so I have to reload the page. Okay, and string given. Try to check this part. We still have here browse. Okay, so it will be I. Okay, so we have here another mistake that I committed. So instead of statement check, or instead of delete check, I wrote SQL delete. Let's try this time to change to SQL check. Okay, hit open, reload the page. Okay, so it's already gone. Okay, so let's try to reload the page. Okay, so we have here deleted. Now let's try to go back to our code. Then we can basically do is we can just try to put this part else. We need to try to put here else. Then try to copy this part. Okay. Try to arrange also the code so that it will be cleaner this time. Oh. Okay, so this is already our final code. So we already have our delete and we also have our insert. Okay, let's try this time to check our code. So to go back here to our go back here first. So we already have our sardines and beverages. Let's try this time to add another category, which is let's try to add again chips. Then let's try to click save category. So we already have here added chips. Okay, now for our delete, what we can basically do is we can try to add header. Okay, we have here location, categories dot php. Then we can type here exit, so that we normally type exit so that the code below exit will not be executed. Okay, so to go back here, try to delete again chips. Okay, so that's it. So this is actually our final code already. So we have here, we need first to check if connected PHP, which is located on the root of our shopping cart. If it's not found, then we will be prompting our user unable to locate connected PHP. Then the code below exit will not be executed. Otherwise, we will be including our connected PHP. Then we have here if $_get actions was to delete. This statement will actually be executed. So we'll be deleting the row that has been selected based on its ID. Okay, we have this particular ID. Otherwise, if we just press save, then this set of code will be executed. So it will be inserted into our categories table. Okay, so we have here insert into categories, category description, question mark. So basically, for this part, we used a double question mark. Then we have here SS, since what we wanted to insert into our category and our description are both considered string. Whereas here, for our ID, we use I, since we are basing it on ID, which is an integer. Okay, so this is actually the final code for our categories. Okay, but there's still one more thing that we need to do, is which is to update. Okay, so let's try this time to go back here. Okay, so the very first thing that we need to do, okay, to update, okay, this is actually already correct. So we have here categories.php actions equals to update. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to just get a single row. Okay, so we can add it here into our top part. Okay, so let's try this time. Okay, try to. Okay, we can add it here. Okay, categories. If $get action equals to update. Okay, so we have here update, which is also the same with this one. Action is equals to update. So if we're going to click the update button, this one will be executed, or this part will be executed. Okay, again, let's just try to copy this part. Let's try to do also some modification. So I'm copying from process.login.php. Then they can do is just try to paste. Okay, so next thing that I need to do is I'm going to select count. Okay, I'm just going to delete this part. Select, try to call this one as cat check. Okay. So I'm going to use ID, then category, then description. From categories, where basically ID is equals to ID. There, you have cat check. Okay, or not query cat. Sorry, let's call this one as SQL cat for category. Okay, then next is we need to prepare our statement. Okay, let's try to call this one as cat check. Then I. Okay, for our this time. Also ID. It's basically there's only one row, one value that we need to check. So first statement check, okay, cat check. Okay, so also for this one, SQL check. Okay. Next is for this one. So we have here ID. So we have here get ID. Now again, this one is in small letters, since basically This one is also made up of small letters. Okay, so to go back here on top, we don't need password. We can put there. Okay, so we have your cat check. Now this time, what we need to do is we're going to bind our, okay, we need to bind our results. So for our results, what we only need to bind is our ID, our category, and our description. Okay. So statement check. Okay, this time let's try to category. Session username. Okay. Let me just try to check this first. Statement check. They will have this one as cat check again. If CTR is equals to 1, okay, go back here. Okay, we can basically, we don't need this part anymore, as well as this part. Okay, so what we can basically do, category, I'll call this one as ID. ID, can ID. Let's first try to output, try to check if it's going to have any values at all. So update. Okay, undefined variable cat check, line 10. Okay, line 10, cat check. Prepare con. Okay. Okay, set up this one, set to call this one, SQL cut. Okay, so to go back here again. Okay, so if you're 1, so okay, decide to comment this one to check. Okay, so what we can basically do is we can create a variable. We can do something like ID. Or text ID. Okay. Text ID is equals to text category, text description. Okay. Echo text ID. Constant ID on line 19. Okay. Okay, so we have, this is already correct. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to create the following variables. So I created the variables here on top, text ID, text. Okay, let's try to change this one into something like text ID, text category. Now we have text description. Okay. Then I also echoed it here. Okay, as you've noticed. Okay. Sorry, one. Okay, categories. Now, as you can see, we have here undefined array key action on line 11. So where is line 11, which is this one? So in order for you to turn off just a single line of warning or notice in PHP, you can basically do just put an asterisk before the code. So in this case, it's line 11. So this one is actually generating the warning. Okay. So that's why we added the asterisk or the at sign or the ampersand. So I'm going to click reload the page. As you've noticed, it's already gone. So I'm going to click here update. So we have here 2. Okay, which is actually correct. Okay, so this time let's try to add values into our category. So we have here value. Echo text category. Okay, the next, same also for description, text description. Okay, so it's not yet showing basically since text category. So we have here category. Then we have text description. We have here description. Okay. Going back here again, so to reload the page. So we already have it here, beverages and description. Now, we wanted, so basically we wanted to edit. What we can do is we can create a hidden field. So I to create it here into our, just above our button, input type, hidden value, echo text ID. Then we have here ID equals to ID. Okay, we will also be editing our JavaScript at the bottom. So you already have here text category, text description. Okay, this time let's try to add another variable. Set of var text ID is equals to dollar ID dot val. Okay. Next is we'll also be doing editing. Okay, so we'll also be editing here ID, then text ID. Okay. Also, we need to edit our process.category. Okay. So what we can basically do is this one. Okay, so since basically we also wanted to execute it here, what we can do if $post, maybe we can do something like okay, go back here first. We have their ID, $post ID. If it's empty, then this will be executed. This execute statement will be executed. Otherwise, or we can actually copy the whole thing. Okay. Okay. So SQL check if ID is empty. We'll also be checking it later. Otherwise, what we can do is update categories. Then what we can do is set category is equals to question mark description question mark where ID is equals to question mark. So we have here ID and I, okay, which means we're trying to pass an integer. Okay, so this one is ID. Then last we have ID. Okay, $post ID. Now let's try to check our code. For description, maybe you can type cold, hot and cold. Okay, try to click save. Okay, so currently it's not doing anything. Okay, so let's try this time to again comment this part. Go back here to our code, reload the page, click update. Then we have here hot and cold. Okay, then click save. So you have here process.login.php. So we have here categories, description, hot and cold, then you have your ID. So we have here undefined array key action, then undefined array key ID. Okay, so that's why we made an error. So process ID. So call this one as ID. Again, what we can do is we can just put an ampersand here. Okay, so let's try to check again our code, reload the page, then click save. Okay, response, it didn't have any response. Request. Okay, so let's try to delete this part first. That's actually, we did that one for debugging purposes, so this is actually it. So let's try to delete. Okay, go back here. Okay, reload the page again. Okay, so already have here hot and cold. Now for sardines, let's try to update. Okay, maybe hot and spicy. Hot and spicy. Spicy. Then save category. Okay, so it's not yet redirecting, so let's try this time to go back to our JavaScript and let's try to uncomment this code. Okay, reload the page. We have your hot and spicy. Now categories, try to add another one. Chips. Okay, so let's try to update to check. Now for chips, try to add fish flavored. Okay, so to click save. Now that's for our category. So now for our categories, we can now basically add, then update or edit, then delete. And at the same time also try to show the different categories entered. So on our next session, we will also be doing the same thing with our products page.